Hey everybody, this is Karma, back again with episode 43 of My Life Stories. This episode is part 2, or the conclusion to episode 42, which I read last week. Please take a moment to hit that like button so you don't forget, and consider subscribing to my channel to not miss any of my new episodes. So make yourself comfortable and let's get started with Liar, Liar, Pants on Fire, part 2. By this time, the company auditor could tell I was becoming more and more agitated with every word TP was sprouting. Go look at that tenant's unit, she advised, and declared that she would do TP's work and pull and then prepare all the files so the audit could be completed. I went to go check on the tenant's complaint. He was actually very pleasant and simply wanted us to uphold our end of the agreement, as he had paid his rent on time for over the last 7 years. The leak was over some sensitive equipment that, according to him, had been patched twice in the last 5 months by one of TP's jacklegs. It was obvious that this leak needed more than a patch, and the company has a contractor to do these jobs. The property manager just needs to submit a work order to get this done. I informed the tenant that I would have the company contractor there to do the job on Monday. I returned to the office where the auditor advised me that an inventory for the office warehouses that we were filing for possession of contents that we could sell for back rent had also not been done. I asked TP to grab the keys to the office warehouse so that we could do the inventory. TP then informed me that she had the items moved as the tenant tried to break into their unit. This is highly illegal. I informed TP that by law and per company policy, a mandatory inventory with pictures had to be done before the items were moved, so that the tenant would be unable to claim any of the contents were missing if the rent in arrears was paid up. TP's only response was, "So?" It took us over an hour to get the inventory done. The entire time I heard TP complain that this process was interrupting her lunch plans. I simply reminded her that if she had followed the schedule and had the work done as expected, we would have already finished and been gone. We returned to the office with TP in tow, where I informed her that I would be sending an email with a write-up for her for not following company policy and not completing mandatory legal paperwork. I asked her why she was not in uniform and instead was wearing a jogging outfit, which was against company policy. TP immediately became defensive and yelled that TM likes the professional way I dress, and that since he was my superior, I should take it up with him. Her tone was disrespectful, imperious, abrasive, and condescending. She insinuated that the owner of the company had no issues with her attire and was fine with her work. She then stalked off and left us alone in the office. I tried to keep rein on my temper as I dialed TM's number and left him a voicemail with what TP had said, and asked that he please talk to her. Then I went outside to call the owner of the company to ask for permission for an immediate dismissal for gross insubordination and dereliction of duty, while I watched TP drive off in her vehicle in a huff. Her words swirled in my head. The way she had said that TM liked the way she dressed and how she had used his first name made me wonder what was going on. The auditor convinced me to leave, go have lunch, and let my nerves settle. We stopped for a bite and were on our way to the next property when the VP of operations called me back. I quickly explained what had happened. The VP advised that I was to stay away from that property, as TP had called the HR department and filed sexual harassment charges against me. I was stunned. "What?" I yelled. "This is ridiculous!" The next 6 months were a blur, as an investigator was hired and gathered all of TP's accusations about me. She was accusing me of late, inappropriate, and drunken phone calls from my personal and company cell phones. She said I had sexually harassed her and the way she dressed, and that I had required her to work off the clock. Her accusations were preposterous, but thankfully my wife believed in me and stuck by me through the entire fiasco. I firmly believe that TP meant to permanently derail my life and my career. Unfortunately for TP, I was able to supply phone records for my personal and company cell phones, so I was able to prove that she had lied about any late, drunk, and inappropriate calls. TP had many more accusations of improper behavior on my part, but thankfully, I had always followed company policy and kept record of all my actions. When I reviewed the dates of the accusations, I was able to find contractors, other managers, and tenants that could vouch for my professional behavior. According to the investigator, there was only one instance where I did not get a complete green light. This concerned my superior, TM. I told the investigator of my suspicions of TM and TP, took the high road, and left it at that. Although I was cleared of all accusations, my good name was dragged through the mud, and I was warned by the company not to take any retaliatory actions towards TP or TM, as I was an officer of the company. During these hard 6 months, while I was focused on proving my innocence, TP's numbers kept dropping and bookkeeping discrepancies kept occurring. A week after the charges against me had been dismissed, the company was served paperwork regarding a lawsuit from one of TP's tenants. The lawsuit was for a 6-figure sum for the loss of business and breach of contract. It was assigned to an arbitrator as per the lease agreement in place. I took a copy of the lease we used and showed up, confident that we would win, as our leases were well constructed and didn't leave much wiggle room for the tenant to sue. I was very surprised when the tenant pulled out not only a different copy of the lease, but in fact, 2 additional different copies of the lease. On the first lease, he explained TP had made changes he had requested, and on both leases, TP had made promises the company would never authorize. Then, TP found that she was unable to live up to any of her promises. I asked the arbitrator if I could make a call due to this new information. I called the company owner and advised him we were royally screwed. I gave him the details and asked him what amount he was ready to settle for. He agreed to $50,000 without question. I went back into arbitration and asked the tenant what reasonable amount he would settle for, and he replied that it would cost him $20,000 to relocate to a facility that could provide the proper environment for his equipment. I agreed and made the arrangements for him to be paid. The following day, the VP of Operations met me at TP's property at 10 a.m. on the dot. Surprise, surprise! The office was closed with a return time of 1:30 p.m. The VP called TP and asked her to return to the office. The VP hardly gave TP the opportunity to get into the office and dropped the termination paperwork in front of her. "You can't fire me," TP yelled. "I'm going to be the next district manager." The VP looked at her and simply stated, "You are wrong about that." TP signed the paperwork and was escorted off the property. The best part of this whole ordeal for me was watching her angrily flounce off the property with her dignity in shreds. We audited the property for the next 3 days. The $300 cash drawer was gone. along with a week's worth of deposits for well past the $4,000 mark. Most of the expensive equipment that TP had ordered could not be located. As we reviewed the leases in the office, we found that 48% had expired, or the tenant had been allowed to move in with no lease at all. Needless to say, it was a mess. Now, you would think that with all that was found, that TP would go quietly into that good night. But oh no, you would be incorrect. She found a shyster to represent her and filed a suit for a slew of things from uncompensated hours worked, improper dismissal, and too many others to even go to in here. It took another year of irritation to myself and the company before a judge reviewed and finally dismissed the case. Karma, I'm not one to hold a grudge, but if TP were hit by a bus, I would feel no remorse and would be happy to be the driver. Thanks for listening. FIA. Oh my God, what a ride this was! I cannot believe how toxic this employee was and how much she was able to get away with. It appears that she was constantly disappearing for the same hours every day. She was constantly purchasing supplies, and who knows what she meant by that. Her deposits were not made on time, and apparently all the equipment that she purchased disappeared from the property. It makes you wonder if TM empowered her to do whatever she wanted and covered up for her whenever FIA tried to rein her back in. I checked with FIA, and it seems that TM is still with the company. I mean, you can't write a soap opera with this many twists and turns. And by the way, I totally understand why he called her TP in this story. Let me know in the comments section if you enjoyed this story in 2 parts or if you would prefer that I do a longer video to tell the entire story. This particular story would have been almost 30 minutes long. And while you're at it, give FIA 3 heart emojis to show your appreciation and support. If you're a subscriber to my channel, you shouldn't have any problems getting all the episodes I download in order. But if you are just viewing my episodes, you may have an issue finding some of them, and that's the YouTube algorithm for you. So subscribe, okay? Have any of you had to deal with a toxic employee or coworker? I really want to hear your story. If you would like your story read on my channel, please submit your story to karma@karmageddon.com or post to u/Karmageddon on Reddit. All stories will be read anonymously with either initials, descriptions, or pseudonames only. If you like this video, hit that like button, feel free to share with family and friends, and subscribe and hit the bell icon for any new stories to be delivered to you. Also, check out my playlist whenever you have some free time. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And that's my video for today. Remember, do something nice today. Help me change the world.
It's not their turn, it's my turn to shine. Like the rays of the sunlight reaching out my arms.
See you next Tuesday. I apologize if my voice sounds funny on this video. I took a nasty tumble and fractured 2 of my molars, and I can't be seen by the dentist until next week. This is sort of a mixed blessing for me, as I, like a lot of others, have gained some weight from being at home so much during this pandemic. Now I can't eat too much. It hurts. But there you go. That's my silver lining. What is yours? Have a tremendous day and a tranquil night, and I will see you later.